So I know that several of you have been following along with this book that we've been reading as we've led up to Easter called We Make the Road by Walking. And this will actually be our final week where the sermon and that book coincide. They overlap. We're going to part ways. But I have wanted to acknowledge that the journey that we have been on, and it's always interesting as a preacher to decide, what am I going to talk about the week after Easter? Because so much of the buildup is to Easter, and then it's this big celebration, and you've got twice as many people in the room, and there's all this energy, and everyone has their Sunday best on, and it's a lot of fun. And then what do you do the week after, right? And the answer is really simple. You begin the road of discipleship. In light of Easter's claim on us, life itself, now, we begin to make the road by walking. Because before, the path was laid out for us. Right from Christmas to Easter, that Lenten journey is often prescribed. It's rehearsed. We can kind of know where it goes. And then we arrived at Easter, and now we're in no man's land. We are in unscripted territory. What the heck do we do now? Like last week we said, Christ is risen. Christ is risen indeed. What do I say this week? Happy-luia? I don't know what to say. I'm making up words. Yeah, because now we're off script. We're done. We are improv actors. We now begin the part of the play where we do improv. Because the plot got us to Easter. Christ is risen. And then the plot twisted. And whatever we had thought of God before that died. That God is dead. And if we continue to try and resurrect our previous notion of God, we make it an idol. We're not supposed to do that. So now we live in this unscripted moment, and we have to talk about the week after Easter, what do we do now as Easter people? So have you ever been taught to do that thing after you open a fortune cookie to add the phrase, in the bedroom after whatever it is, your fortune? Have you been taught to do this? It makes fortune cookies so much more interesting if you just add the phrase, in the bedroom afterwards. Try it next time and then text it to me. I'll put it on the church website. Everyone will laugh. It'll be great. Just tweet it at me. And it actually does make fortune cookies way more interesting. Because sometimes you read the fortune and you're like, that doesn't even apply to me. Unless I'm in the bedroom. Sleeping. If you're sleeping, it's a restful. No, I'm kidding. So I have a version of that, but instead of fortune cookies, I like to do it with Easter eggs. Because the questions that sit in front of us become far more interesting if you add the phrase, as Easter people. If you add the phrase, as Easter people, to the end of any question, the question transforms. So when you look at our political situation and you say, what are we going to do with the candidates that we're being presented as Easter people? Changes the question a little bit. It changes our interactions financially with our economic system. And we say, how do we use our resources as Easter people? It changes the way we interact with technology. In what way should I invest my time, talent, and treasure as an Easter person in light of the life of Christ laying claim to me? It affects every area of your life. There is nothing that the light of Christ doesn't touch. How should I respond to this criticism as Easter people? What do I do with that jerky neighbor or coworker as Easter people? This is why we love the question. So at this church, one of the things we've had to adjust to in the last almost 2 years is that I don't bring the answers because I don't have the answers. But boy, do I love questions. Man, do I love questions. Because sometimes you can't get a good answer if you ask a bad question. So every week I break you up into small groups and I ask you a question. I don't tell you what the right answer was. Today I asked you if you could snap your fingers and change one thing, what would you change? If you're anything like me, like I didn't even have to be in a group this week. And I had anxiety thinking about that question. Because if I go for something that's very particular to me, something very specific, then I think I went too small. It doesn't affect enough people. So I started trying to think of bigger answers, but then it was so abstract. I thought, come on. But you fix this one thing and then there's this other thing, right? And there's this indecision that comes. But the question is, the question is changed. It's modified if you add as Easter people. What's the priority as Easter people? Because the simple fact is, the boundaries that we have been given, the external rules of morality, the practices of religion are transformed after Easter. How are you going to live this week as Easter people? How do you spend your money? How do you spend your time? What do your passions go to? How do you interact with those who aren't on the same page as you as Easter people? The light of Christ touches every nook and cranny of your existence. And it transforms you because you're forgiven. Your worst day doesn't define you anymore. And because grace has gone ahead of you, your ceiling isn't defined by your best day so far. Your best days are not behind you. The light of Christ is ahead of you. And as you walk into the things that God has for you, possibilities will open up. And even no matter what season of life you're in, no matter how much regret or shame or hesitation or frustration you have, there is something ahead of you that Christ has for you with your unique gifting and grace to the world. I have good news for you today. There's no plot. We're doing improv, baby! Now, we know the road that got us here. But starting today, we make the road by walking. We make choices to put one foot in front of another, one foot in front of another, day after day, until we get to where God's calling us. And this is true if you're 23, and this is true if you're 83. This is the life of faith together as Easter people. We have a gift. The gift is that we're off script. We're doing improv now. Together as Easter people. It is a blessing and a curse because we're not connected anymore, right? Like the line that holds us to the wall has been cut. We just cling to each other now as Easter people. The safety net is gone. We're each other's safety net. You won't fall through the cracks. We will catch you. And I have no fear of falling to the bottom because I know that your care will get me through. We will get there together. We make the road by walking as Easter people. May God make this so. Sarah, will you pray for us?